How many of you are prepared for an incident like this? Get my new book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and I will teach you to think like an attacker so you can truly defend yourself. Don't just react, act. Available for pre-order now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Sheep No More. Get it.
My name is Jonathan Gillum.
And this is The Experts. This is Jonathan Gillum, and this is The Experts on Facebook Live, Twitter, and YouTube. And no, I'm not at CPAC. Guys like me don't get asked to speak at CPAC. That's for the pretty people in the press, not the experts. So, interesting, folks. The president had a town hall today, and I'm not going to lie to you, I have not had time to listen to it, with the exception of one father. But it didn't take me long to realize something I'm going to point out about this, in that, I don't know, the way it's listed on YouTube I find very interesting. But another thing I did see in the news today that I just can't wait to get into this is Mark Cuban. I'm not a fan of Mark Cuban. Most people probably that watch the show know that I don't like Mark Cuban. I don't like what he stands for. So let's talk about it. see if you can hear this. Listen real close. That's how loud my dog drinks. Rico, he's over there drinking water. Now, I just started the show. And when do you know I got to sneeze? Right when I started the show. Okay. Listen, we're raw on this show. So I just got back from, oh, by the way, let's go ahead, if you haven't already, let's share this show on Facebook if you haven't shared it, and then retweet it. So I'm going to do that real quick. Do it with me. Go to Facebook here, and let me pull up this show on my public page. So I'm going to copy the link in case you don't know what we're doing here. Copy the link, and then you go, like for me, I go to I have a personal page, and I have another couple other pages that are on there. Some of them are old. So I'll just go on and I'll post the link to the show. You need to do that as well, because I've noticed the other day, past couple days, we've had, overall after the show is off, we have like 10,000 views and 80 shares. So we got to make sure that we're sharing this show a lot, because that's what helps. We can't count on Facebook to populate the news feed. They don't do that anymore. As soon as I was getting like 1 million people in my news feed. As soon as that happens, they're not going to, they're going to kill your news feed because they want you to pay for it. So that's how that's their little scam. It's not free. You think it's free. But once you get kind of popular and you're trying to reach people, they'll shut it down real quick. So anyway, pretty interesting today. So I've shared my show. It's already on. It's been tweeted. So make sure you're retweeting. So today, I just got back. We recorded a show for True TV, which used to be the Court Channel, and then I think his name is Dan Abrams, who you guys will know if you see him. He's got a face that's very recognizable. He took over Crime TV and turned it into True TV. That's where they have the live police departments and all that stuff. Well, a friend of mine who you probably know if you've watched Fox or CNN and stuff, Bill Stanton, has a show there, and he does it every Friday. Bill was a NYPD officer, and then does bodyguarding and stuff like that. And so he had, it was crazy. I grew up, I don't know, a lot of you don't know this, I grew up really small. I was like skinny as all get out. And I wanted to be a bodybuilder. I started lifting weights. This is before I became, or went into the SEAL teams and stuff. And I wanted to be a bodybuilder. So I started lifting really hard. And I gained some muscle and stuff, but I didn't really start getting big until later on. But and if there's anybody from Bryant High School that was in speech and drama class with me, I talked about this at times, about some of the heroes that you have in bodybuilding. Well, lo and behold, on the show tonight, I thought it was pretty cool, was Rich Gaspari. So Rich Gaspari was an amazing legend in bodybuilding. But, if he had started a little bit before or a little bit after Lee Haney, he would have been Mr. Olympia over and over and over again. But unfortunately, Lee Haney is a monster of a human being, and Rich always came in second. Now, he won Mr. Universe. He won all these different amateur championships, and he won a lot in pro bodybuilding too. But when it came to Mr. Olympia, he just couldn't get around. He was in the same era as Lee Haney. He couldn't get around Lee Haney. So this is us today on the set. And as you can see, that jacket makes me look huge. Get jacket and camera angle, so I like that. But he has a whole line of products, Gaspari Nutrition, that you can check out. And this is Bill Stanton over here on the other side with the Gold's Gym shirt on, looking all tan, and with his weapon there on his side. It's so funny. So anyway, and there's Lucy. I don't know if you can see Lucy. That's his dog. You can see her head at the very bottom of the picture, right next to Bill. You see a little head. Her name is Lucy. So that's pretty cool to be able to hang out with. That was like an hour ago, and that's why I'm late getting the show started tonight. So there you go. So I thought that was pretty cool, and great guys. I got to tell you, Rich Gaspari is super cool, and he has an incredible story about being this famous bodybuilder and then trying to start a company and going bankrupt. And he went bankrupt a couple times, and now he's worth $85 million. So we got to talk about this. I'm going to have him on the show. He said he'd come on, and we'll talk about that. It's a pretty fascinating story. I love these. I love rags to riches stories, but I love the stories where people have an incredible idea, but it just doesn't quite work out, and they got to go through all this stuff before they climb to the top. It's like God is putting them through some kind of special doctorate's degree so they can be forged in the fire of failure in order to be a success. It's pretty cool. So enough about that. Let's start talking tonight. We've been talking ad nauseum about the gun violence and how we can stop it. I've talked and over about this stuff. It seems like part of the country is getting this. I know a lot. It wasn't just, look, I came up with an idea separate from other people, but it doesn't mean that all these other veterans and people have the same idea. I'm not the only one that came up with the idea of putting veterans and former cops in school. The sheriff in Sarasota is going to do that, but he's saying retired law enforcement. I'd like to see, even if somebody's been a cop for 5 years, I would say, 4 years is 3 years is. You walk the beat for 3 years and you don't get in trouble, you're qualified to carry a gun in public. I think that's what I think. So, there's other people that came up with that same type of an idea. So it's floating out there. I hope the president sees it. But today they had a discussion, he called it a discussion, with individuals who were in the school, in Parkland High School in Florida where the shooting happened. And then he had a lot of the parents that were there as well. So it was I didn't get to watch all of it. I got to actually watch one person, and I'm glad I got to watch him. Because we were talking about yesterday, we were talking about the grieving process and what's normal and what's not. And I saw, we talked about these kids. I mean, look, these are people whose classmates died 5 days before. And I find it very odd. There's several people in there that are very odd. This one kid, I'm just forgotten his name now, but the kid that everybody's talking about. You see him on the upper left-hand side, right next to the tall guy with the it looks like a denim shirt on, but this kid's got black shirt. I'll think of his name here in a minute. Hogg, that's his name. It's either Dave or Daniel Hogg. There's a lot of controversy about that. I think it would be wise of him to come out and say, look, this is who I am. I'm a student. Because he's going to forever be considered mysterious, and it's not going to work in his advantage. It could get him hurt, quite frankly. So I'd like to see them come out and show some proof of who he is. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that. Not because, and also with the girl with the shaved head, who these two people are like the most trained. It's like they were just waiting for this to happen. So I told you before, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I gotta say there's something up with this. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it, but it's odd. From an investigative standpoint, I don't remember ever seeing, even, when we look at Columbine, you want to see the reality, look at Columbine. Columbine was long before all this this stuff about the Second Amendment, and all before these shootings started happening more and more. Columbine, you got to see the reality of a grieving process. That was a city, a town that was destroyed mentally, and it affected the entire country. They literally, after Columbine, they changed the way they respond to the active shooters in schools, which it affected active shooters and everything. So, but unfortunately, it didn't affect properly the actions that you take long before a bad guy walks up and wants to shoot a school. They just never, ever, for some reason, they never tackled that problem properly, which I'm going to do, which I've done in my book, Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. I'll take that picture off, which if you haven't ordered it, you can get it on Amazon. It's not expensive. You need to read it. You need to apply it. And don't wait for teachers and law enforcement to tell you how things can go. So anyway, Columbine, if you want to see real mourning, go look at that. So, and people were devastated. But I don't get this. I don't get the way that these people are. And from an investigative standpoint, that 5 days after murders, I'm not talking about somebody who was killed in a car crash. I've been in a school before where somebody was killed. There were several kids killed in a car crash when I was in school. You may have heard of of Kevin Ives and Don Earl, those two guys, I ate lunch with them every day before I graduated in 87, and then they were killed. That rocked everybody. So I don't understand this. Now let me contrast that, because I'm going to play the one person that I did hear today and I'm going to go back and listen to this whole thing. I'm going to make the effort to go back and listen to it. And this is off of, just so we don't get, this is Time Magazine. We'll give them credit for this, Time Magazine. But here's what's interesting about this. Time Magazine. We look right here, and it says on the title, which you can't read because it's too bright here, President Trump hosts discussion with Parkland School shooting survivors. Sam Zeif, Z-E-I-F, speaks out. So I found this very interesting, because I was thinking that was the name of the father that's going to speak here in just a second, but that's not the name of the father. And I have a sneaking suspicion, I haven't done this yet, but I have a sneaking suspicion that when I listen to what Sam Zeif, however you say his name, when he stands up to speak, I have a sneaky suspicion based on this, that Sam is going to talk about gun control. And he's going to talk about the Second Amendment. He's not going to talk about metal detectors or volunteer forces or threat assessments. He's not going to talk about that. He's going to say that we need to solve this problem like this woman did. I got to listen to the end of hers, and she's saying there's no reason why people that young should have a gun. Let me show you what grieving looks like. And he handles it like a true New Yorker.
We're here because my daughter has no voice. She was murdered last week, and she was taken from us. Shot 9 times on the 3rd floor. We, as a country, failed our children. This shouldn't happen. We go to the airport. I can't get on a plane with a bottle of water, but we leave it. Some animal could walk into a school and shoot our children. It's just not right, and we need to come together as a country and work on what's important, and that's protecting our children in the schools. That's the only thing that matters right now. Everyone has to come together and not think about different laws. We need to come together as a country, not different parties, and figure out how we protect the schools. It's simple. It's not difficult. We protect airports. We protect concerts, stadiums, embassies, the Department of Education that I walked in today that has a security guard in the elevator. How do you think that makes me feel? In the elevator, they got a security guard. I'm very angry that this happened, because it keeps happening. 9/11 happened once, and they fixed everything. How many schools, how many children have to get shot? It stops here with this administration and me. I'm not gonna sleep until it's fixed. And Mr. President, we're gonna fix it, because I'm gonna fix it. I'm not gonna rest. And look at my boys need to live with this. I want to see everyone. You guys look at this. Me, I'm a man, but to see your children go through this, buried their sister. So that's what I keep saying this, because I want it to sink in, not forget about this. We can't forget about it. All these school shootings, it doesn't make sense. Fix it. Should have been one school shooting, and we should have fixed it. And I'm pissed, because my daughter I'm not going to see again. She's not here. She's not here. She's in North Lauderdale at whatever it is, King David Cemetery. That's where I go to see my kid now. And it stops. We all work together and come up with the right idea, and it's school safety. It's not about gun laws right now. That's another fight, another battle. Let's fix the schools, and then you guys can battle it out whatever you want. But we need our children safe. Monday, tomorrow, whatever day it is. Your kids are going to go to school. You think everyone's kids are safe? I didn't think it was going to happen to me. If I knew that, I would have been at the school every day if I knew it was that dangerous. It's enough. Let's get together, work with the president, and fix the schools. That's it. No other discussions. Security, whatever we have to do. Get the right people, the consultants. These are our commodities, man. I'm never going to see my kid again. I want you all to know that. Never, ever will I see my kid. That's how I want it to sink in. It's eternity. My beautiful daughter, I'm never going to see again. And it's simple. It's not, we could fix it. This is my son, Huck, who's have to deal with this too. You have something to say, son?
So there you go. That is that's grieving, folks. And that, by the way, that's a man who has the ability to speak rationally, even in his grief. And if you notice, this is a guy who he's grief-stricken, this guy. He's talking about he's never going to see his daughter again. She's in a cemetery. That's where he's got to go see her now. But when you listen to these kids, which I haven't heard what they had to say, but when you listen to these kids and you look at how happy they are, I'm not seeing that. That bothers me immensely. And the ideas that they come up with is gun control. You know, don't let anybody have an AR-15. They're not even talking about pistols. If we looked at the statistics, okay? I heard this actually on Will Cow's show today after I was on there. And I don't have the article up here. Maybe I'll have that up here tomorrow if I get a chance. There is a woman, I don't remember what she writes for. I just know that she did 4 things that, let me see if I can pull it up here. 4 things that conservatives get right about gun control. Let's see if it comes up here. But of course, it's probably not going to come up here because Google's not going to let that happen. There's no way they're going to have that come up first. I'm looking at everything else. They're saying that, you know, the right's hypocrisy. John Kasich, wish that guy would go away. He's one that stands on gun laws. But I don't see her story. I'll find it. I'll find it tomorrow. But she's a liberal. And she even says she's a liberal. But she goes and lays out, because she grew up, I believe, in Connecticut. And she grew up in a very liberal home. And she gets it. And one of the things that she lays out, one of the things that she gets right is that there are 200, and I didn't even realize there were this many. There are 240 million to 400 million. They're not actually sure. $240 million to 400 million legal guns in this country, or legal guns owned legally in this country. Now, out of all those guns, only 1% are ever used for a violent killing, and typically the majority of those are going to be used for suicide, if anything. Almost all killings that are done with a gun in the United States are done with a pistol, not an AR-15. Mass shootings have been done with shotguns, with pistols, and various other guns. The Columbine killers had a shotgun and I can't remember what it was. It was a smaller version of a semi-auto, smaller gun, about this big. So there's very little that happens with these 400 million guns that exist in and around the country on a daily basis. Most people never draw their guns in anger. Most people never get in a shootout. Most people, or a lot of people, collect their guns, and their guns basically sit in their home. Very few of them have, so, you know, there's a lot of concealed weapons carry permits, but a lot of these people don't even have that. Their guns just sit in their homes. And the majority of violent killings that are done are actually done with illegally obtained weapons. And it's not an AR-15. So even if we didn't fix the mental health system and we took AR-15s away, chances are that somebody who is crazy, somebody who is, if you want to use technical terms, psychotic, psychopathic, antisocial, extreme narcissist, whatever it is, and they want to go out and shoot up a school, even if you take AR-15s away, they're still going to get a weapon. And even if you say that mental health people have to have an extra background check, or they have to be interviewed by police before they purchase a weapon legally, and you put restrictions there, it would probably actually be easier for them just to go get a gun from the black market from some thug. They could walk down anywhere in the inner city and ask a couple people, and eventually somebody would say, yeah, we can get you a gun. I used to do gun buys all the time in the FBI. I didn't personally. We used sources to do them, but we oversaw the gun buy. It's easy. You can do it any day of the week. All illegally obtained. Many of the guns have been stolen. I'd say a lot of them, most of them have been stolen. Some of them come from other countries, so on and so forth. In the case of the previous administration, Mexico can thank us for like 1,500 guns that we sent over there. Thank you, Eric Holder and Barack Obama. How stupid is that? Whoever that SAC that jumped on board of that, and the special agent that thought that was a good idea. What? Come on. So, there's a couple things when I see this today. One, those kids are not these kids are not mourning. These kids are not, that is not mourning. That is looking forward to an interview and popularity. That's what that is. And for some of these people, or all of them, this is their day, their Super Bowl is happening because they're trained for this. That's what I believe. There's something odd about it. What you saw with that father, that's real mourning. And that's a real solution, which is also the thing when you look at these people and you listen to what they have to say. There's no solution there. But you look at that grieving father, and he does have a solution. So just like I was trying to look up this liberals article, I can't find it because it's pushed down and away. The reality is with these people, their ideas are worthless. And if you come up with a good idea, you get suppressed. So just like when I had Nina here the other day and I was talking with her on how we can plant seeds and get into a conversation, have dialogue and unity with people that we don't normally believe the same things that they do, but she believes in the Second Amendment and letting people have weapons, and that's our end. And we talk to her, and before you know it, you have dialogue with Nina, and you maybe laugh. You may not ever agree on a lot of the stuff that she believes in, but that one thing could be enough for her to stand next to you when it came down to who was being elected. So when I look at these young people that are not mourning and their agendas, you're not going to get anywhere in there with them. You would with somebody like Nina, but not with them. You're not going to penetrate that shell because they are, whether or not they're actors or not. You know, I know all these people, there's people getting blocked from Twitter. There's people getting, you know, fired over this because they're saying these kids are actors. I don't know whether people are actors or not, but what I will tell you is that they sure were prepared for this. And now it could be as simple as the fact that they are activists, and this is just something they talk about on a regular basis. So when it happened, they came out and they did. But I know when I look at that father and I look at the brothers of this girl, they are grief-stricken. They're beside themselves. But yet at the same time, they're able to come up with real effective solutions. That's phenomenal. And I find it interesting that people who are showing no signs of grieving, that are happy as can be, have no solutions. So, I don't want to continue to hash this, but I got to say, I said this yesterday. I said it on Breitbart this morning. I said it yesterday on this show. This president has an opportunity to do something phenomenal. Somebody said on Twitter, those kids both sound serious and articulate. You're talking about Hogg and the other girl. Is that who you're talking about? Let's see here. And I'll tell you something else. People are coming on saying, you know, the guy was a racist, you know, white supremacist, all this stuff, so on and so forth. You know, I don't care if he showed up to the school in a KKK outfit. The fact is he got into the school. And evidently, I didn't even know this, he got to the 3rd floor. The fact is, if you don't secure the schools, the next person may have, I don't know, green skin. It doesn't matter what their belief system is. The fact is they got into the school. They got into the school and killed 17 kids. There was no security, no threat assessment, no involvement with law enforcement. Again and again, this kid was passed down the road when he was a serious problem. Nobody did anything. The school wasn't assessed. No guards. The kid walked right in. So it wouldn't matter if he had a Black Panthers outfit or if he had a KKK outfit or if he was dressed like Zorro. I don't care. The fact is, he got into the school. And unless we secure the schools, it's not going to matter if you have an AR-15 or a pistol or a shotgun, or as I keep saying over and over again, a knife. In 2014, something like 20 kids were stabbed in a school in Pennsylvania. Did you even know that? Didn't even really make the news at all. Severely injured. So, for all these people that are coming on Twitter, and you keep saying stuff like, you know, you're a fool. I'm looking at some of the stuff that people are writing right now. They're saying, you know, your premise is wrong, or they're saying stuff about like, they just keep going back to the gun issue, back to the gun issue. I'm tending to think that they're just trolls. But if you're that close-minded, where you can't get past the fact that, and look at it realistically. I mean, honestly, I would let one of you call in on Skype if you want to tell us your plan to save people in schools. Because if it's just getting rid of AR-15s and increasing a background check, I'm here to tell you, the background checks are still going to go through. Crazy people are still going to slip through. And you can take all the AR-15s and AK-47s away that you want. But if somebody has a pistol, or they have an AR-15 or an AK-47 that they got illegally, they're still going to carry out the attack unless you secure the school. John Nagel says, here's another big part of what you just said. He got into the school he was expelled from. Absolutely. So, Somebody just wrote solutions with a bunch of question marks. Yeah, give us your solutions. What's your solution to secure the school? What's your solution? The school had an armed guard. Let me tell you something. I'll tell you this over and over again. You can take an armed guard, you can stick them on a campus of a school. If you don't do a threat assessment to determine the vulnerabilities in that school, the number of doors that can be locked, the avenues of approach of an attacker, just like it's done in a stadium arena. I know because I did them for the Department of Homeland Security. Just like it's done at airports. I know because I did them. I was also an air marshal. Just like they're done for high-value federal buildings. I know, I did those. Just like they're done for military bases. I know because I was one of the bad guys trying to sneak into all these places. If you don't have a plan to stop the entrance of these bad people, there's going to continue to be people dying. Now, go ahead. Let me listen to what your suggestions would be. If you're a liberal troll, and you know, anybody that watches this show, they know I don't like to use the terms liberal and conservative, but I find that people that are liberal in this day and age are very similar to people who have dark skin that are on CNN. They can't stop telling everybody that they're black and you're not, that they're oppressed and you're not. It's the same thing with liberals. They keep saying, no, secure guns. I give you all these realistic, from somebody who has the experience. I've done the threat assessments. I've been the bad guy. Yet you just won't buy off on that for one. I don't understand the reasons. And what I was going to say, I didn't finish saying, was if you don't secure those schools, if you don't do the threat assessment and close the doors and funnel people to one area who want to come into the school, one guard is not going to be able to cover it all. They're just not. All you got to do as a bad guy is realize where that guard is and go somewhere else. So, there you go. Yeah, I get a little distracted. Somebody says I get a little distracted by these people. It's not that I get distracted. I'm trying to figure out what the mindset is of people that will get on here and they'll go back and forth. And when you give them, not trying to throw it in their face, I'm trying to make them see reality here. All they come back with is F you, you racist or something. And then they go, and then they either disappear or they just stay on their yelling stuff. Or they like to use the word hyperbole. I guess you're talking to me about that. How can you expect solutions from them when their solutions are to destroy us? Now, that's pretty true. I'm assuming that's somebody who's conservative. Now, the other thing is about these school shooters. It's the same thing when you look at crazy people like schizophrenic. When you walk through the streets of New York, they're either yelling FBI, CIA, or Jesus. And why is that? Because even with people who have mental disorders that walk the streets, they have learned through the years of growing up to associate the FBI and the CIA with the darker sides of government. So when they go psychotic, they tend to, that tends to be something that they're kind of drawn towards. Same thing with Jesus. He's an authority figure. And so they're drawn to that. Same thing where terrorists get fixated on something like an airport, or they get fixated on something like the Twin Towers. What they'll do is, same thing with people who have mental disorders. Once they see that something gives a lot of attention, or they see that, you know, that they were treated bad in school, and so they see that it happened on TV and somebody else did it, they're going to focus on that. So you are not going to stop these crazy people from doing things by just eliminating 2 guns or restricting where you have to go through a waiting process for 15 days and an extreme background check. You're still going to get crazy people out of all that. So, it's funny. It's very interesting because this is a great experiment, because I've got Twitter on the left and I've got Facebook on the right. And Facebook is almost all, it's kind of a closed little group. It's mostly conservatives that watch it over here. And on Twitter, you got some great conservative minds, free thinkers. Let's call them free thinkers. I don't even call them conservatives. Free thinkers. And then you got a bunch of people who have trolls, and the other half, they just can't let go of their ideology that they're being told this is the way it is. So it's very interesting. That's about it. I saw that today, and I just thought, and I'm going to go back and watch this, but I can already guarantee you it's going to be, they're just going to be talking about gun control. That's going to be it. But I will say this, Mr. President, man, you have got to get on board with what this guy was saying, what I've been saying, what all these other people have been saying that are veterans and that former law enforcement. You've got to realize, Mr. President, that there are solutions out there. You know, you took over for the city of New York. Mr. President, you took over the ice skating rink, and it was behind budget and it was going crazy. And so you took it over and became under budget and under time because you went and found subject matter experts down in Miami that knew how to work with ice in a hot location. And then you brought them up here to New York City, and they were able to just knock this thing out. You got subject matter experts. And I can't understand for the life of me. You'll sit parents and students who may or may not have actually been in this, and you listen to them and you take their advice. And I get it. It's a comfort thing, and that's great. But listen, starting Monday, I wouldn't even wait that long. I'd do it now. I would be putting together a group of people, and I'm not talking about some generals here. I'm talking about some pipe hitters. I'm talking about guys like myself, Ron Bellin, people that are trained. Kitty Kelly, get her on there. You guys may think I'm mad at Kitty Kelly. I'm not mad at her. Get real people that know how to do threat assessments. Let's come up with some real solutions. Let's look for some common vulnerabilities in all schools. Let's look for some common avenues of approach that attackers take. Let's look at the type of mental issues that people may have that are drawn to this. What kind of medication are they all on? Let's take all that into perspective, and let's sit down and let's knock this out in a week. Let's just knock it out. And then we'll start going to all the states with we give us funding, all the funding we need, but it's not going to be a break the bank type of issue. Most of this stuff is a puzzle that you got to figure out. And once you figure the puzzle out, you just adjust things. That's what it is. So, Mr. President, don't fail us on this. Don't fall for the people and that are mourning, that are saying gun control, gun control. Don't fall for that. Like the father said, there will be a day and time when that is going to be an issue. And we can confront that. But what we need to talk about right now is how to secure schools, malls, religious institutions, stadium and arenas. I was down by Madison Square Garden today at Penn Station. Oh, my Lord. I looked at the cab driver. He's in front of me. I said, what do you see here? There's thousands of people walking around like ants, all in the street, flooding out and flooding into Penn Station. I said, what do you see here? He goes, a disaster. I said, I'll tell you what I see. Imagine if that guy, that terrorist that took that truck and drove down the West Side Highway bike path in Manhattan on Halloween Day. Imagine if that guy had come flying down 7th Avenue and turned and went straight down in there and blew his truck up. He would have killed thousands. Or somebody with a gun there. The guy just turned and he was like, yeah, it's pretty bad. I don't know what he was thinking when I said that to him, but I worked in the FBI for this reason for a period of time. It's very, very strange. But Trump cannot lean on the advice of a 17-year-old over the advice of somebody who's been doing threat assessments for 20 years, effective threat assessments. And here's the other thing. Just because somebody's been a cop doesn't mean they can do the right threat assessments. Just because somebody's been in infantry, in the Army, doesn't mean they have the qualifications to do these threat assessments. What separates SEALs, and I'm going to point out SEALs here, but also Special Forces, Rangers to an extent, definitely Force Recon, the Marine. What differentiates us, and I will have to say especially the SEALs, is that we are an offensive, unconventional warfare unit. And what does that mean? It means that we see the world from an attacker's point of view. And we're able to flip the switch back and forth. Where do you think I got attacker and defender from? Attack and defend. So that you can learn how to look at it from an attacker's point of view and then flip the switch and look at it from a defender's point of view. That's the technique in the book Sheep No More. So we are trained to look at things from an attacker's point of view. This is the avenue of approach I would take. This is the type of attack I would take. This is the location where I would attack. This is the time of day that I would attack it. Historically, this is why people are drawn to this, and this is the type of person that would do it. Just like that. But you cannot lean on the advice of people who were just in an attack, who lost friends, who saw the blood and the destruction. They're traumatized. And they're also 17. If you want to learn, if I want to learn how to play poker, I'm not a poker player. I've never played cards. I'm not big on math. But if I want to learn how to play poker, I'm going to go find somebody that is amazing at poker, and I'm going to learn from them. I'm not going to go find somebody who sucks at cards and went in one day thinking that after they studied in a book that they were going to go and win Vegas, and they went there and lost $100,000 and went bankrupt. I'm not going to go find that guy or girl and ask them, how do I play poker to win? No, I'm going to go find a subject matter expert. And just like that, we should not be reaching out to 17-year-olds who are just in a shooting and their parents and saying, how would you secure this place? Listen, I think it's honorable that the president gave them a voice. But the reality is they are not the ones that those people should be home mourning. I don't understand what this drive is to get into the White House and get in front of TV when somebody's died that you're close to. I don't understand that at all. So I certainly hope that the president takes this stuff seriously, that he gets subject matter experts, that his son-in-law Jared isn't running it, or his daughter, or any of the generals, that he goes and gets people who are trained to kill. Just like if you're going to go get somebody to teach you cards, you're going to go get the killer card player. You need to reach out for people who've been trained by the very same government in which he serves and leads, to look at these places and say, this is how I would enter and this is how I would kill. And then turn around and say, this is how we keep you out of it. Or me. I can go do it either way. And that's what needs to happen. And I'm worried. Because if the president, who has all this experience looking at things from an operational standpoint, doesn't do this, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad for the country. It's going to be bad for conservatives. It's going to be bad for the president. Now's not the time to be worried about getting reelected. Pete Van Hoosier was my CO, my commanding officer at SEAL Team 4 when I left. And that guy was awesome. He always said he's 2 pay grades above what he ever thought he would be. So every day he's a captain in the SEAL teams. He's happy with that. And that's the way the president needs to be. Happy to have led the country. If he does something and he does it effectively and they don't get it and they vote him out, he's a billionaire. So what? You did a fantastic job already. President Trump has done such an amazing job of getting himself elected, of standing up against the establishment, both Democrat and Republican establishments, and liberals. You should realize this. He stood up against your freakish establishment as well. You should realize this president's done an amazing job. He should realize it. Taxes, fantastic. Immigration plan is good. He's got to get on it. but he still has that vision. Healthcare, not his fault, but it's a disaster. But this is his opportunity to say, you know what? Screw it. Listen, I'm going to be here for you all. I know this is tragic. I know it's hurting. I want you to go home and I want you to mourn properly. I want you to deal with this. And then when we fix these schools, I want you to walk around and tell me, do you feel safer? I'll ask you. But right now we got to get to business. And we have to start by securing our schools. Let's get the subject matter experts in here. Let's get people who are long since distanced themselves from an attack, but they were in the attack. Let's get them in here. And I don't want the people who've been attacked and all of a sudden they hate the Second Amendment. I want people that are looking at this from, I was the attack. I was the victim, and I saw this happen and this happen and this. I want those people in there as well. I want people who have been teachers for 20 or 30 years. I want principals. I want superintendents. And I want killers. Trained killers by the United States government to walk in there and say, listen to all these people. Yep, that's something I'd exploit right there. Yes, I'd be in there. Are there any metal detectors? No. Then I'm just going to go to school with my backpack and not say a word until I get into the classroom, and then I'm going to pull it out and start going at it. I don't want George Clooney's involved with his $500,000 if he wants to donate it. I said this, tried to say it on Breitbart this morning. $500,000 divided by 4,395, I believe it was, gives you 56 schools. He could have bought 2 metal detectors for 56 schools with that money. Same thing with Oprah. Same thing with the rest of these people. The government could have matched him. Imagine that. And then you lock the doors, funnel the people in, and you got metal detectors to make sure that at least people aren't getting into the classroom with stuff in their duffel bag. But you put armed guards out there, and when people are in class and you see somebody approaching, you could set up a policy where they have to call into the principal's office and say, I'm going to be late or I'm a guest there today. And they say, okay, you're cleared. Here's your code, G4697. You're going to tell that to the plainclothes person that you see as you walk up to the building, and do not do anything foolish. And that would be one of the volunteer vets or former police officers. And as a person approaches, they're told as they get to a certain distance, give me your passcode. And they say G357, whatever it was. And they say, okay, good to go. Come on in. That's the only interaction these people ever have with anybody. Not stopping fights, nothing. Somebody says schools are going to look like the Pentagon. You ever been to the Pentagon? By the way, whoever said that? I've been to the Pentagon. You go to the Pentagon, you know what you feel? Very secure. You don't feel scared. You don't go to the Pentagon all freaked out. You go to the Pentagon, actually you don't see a whole lot of anything, because they have their security in tactical places where they need to be. Pentagon's most dangerous time of the day is when everybody's leaving. That's when I'm scared. That's when chaos reigns, because it'd be a lot easier to get up there and hurt people as they're getting on the train by the thousands or in their cars and, rush hour traffic and things like that. So if schools look like federal buildings, I'm okay with that. I worked in a federal building for 8 years here in New York. Every day I went to work, I felt safe. I didn't feel bad about it at all. Would you rather just leave it wide open and hope that nobody comes back and attacks? That's just ridiculous. Now, I think that's enough, folks. I go back and forth on this stuff with Donald Trump. I hope you guys get it. I hope you do get it. You're going to have a lot of time to think about this. And if the president goes in the wrong direction, you're going to see. One of these days, a politician's going to sneak in, and they're going to get this stuff banned. And then a school's going to get shot up again. That's what's going to happen, unless you secure the school. So let's go to the next topic here, and then I'll close it out. And I'll go ahead and do an A block. I should just skip straight to C block. But I want to talk a little bit about Mark Cuban. Let's do it.
C block. Yeah.
Figured I'd add a little something in there. Let me do that again. I'm going to do it right this time. Hold on. Let's see what here we go. Ready? If you're tuned in, make sure you share the show on Facebook and retweet it on Twitter. Okay, here we go. We're going to get dramatic this time. Ready? Do it!
C block. Yeah.
Now, if Dave Robinson was doing this show, well, it'd look something like this. I hit the wrong thing.
C block. Woohoo!
For those of you who don't know, Dave Robinson is my good buddy who's a Marine. And he's my West Virginia reporter. But that's
Dave Robinson got a real country accent, talks like this. Is Dave watching? I think he's watching. He's watching you, all right.
All right, so Mark Cuban. I don't like Mark Cuban for various reasons. I happen to have some gouge about the guy from people that actually know him from behind the scenes. I've never met him. I met his brother. He's a nice enough guy. Mark Cuban, for a lack of terms, I don't want to, I'm trying not to use these terms like scumbag and weirdo and things like that, but I just can't think of any other words to say it right. So Mark Cuban is a scumbag, lowlife geek who made a lot of money and continues to live like a lowlife scumbag. And I have many reasons for saying that. He is, from what I understand, not a nice person. Not if you're, I mean, look, I think it says it all when you look at the report now saying that the front office at the Mavericks, which is the team that he owns, and he just got fined $600,000 for his mouth, but the team evidently had a real problem with sexual misconduct. Let's just put it to you that way. What's interesting, and I don't think they didn't point this out. Let me see if I can find this guy's name again. When I read through this, there's no way I could read through this and not catch this, and I know it's probably the same thing with the majority of people here. His the Mavericks team president, last name Usury, first name, I know I'm saying this wrong, but it's literally spelled Turdima. So you know you're pretty much a crap bag if your first name has turd in it, which this guy does. So there's a lot of inappropriate sexual conduct by him, by other people, probably by Mark Cuban. But when I saw, there's a lot of scumbags out there that own teams and do things like that. But when I saw him during the election process floating the idea that maybe he'll run for president, I mean, listen, give me a freaking break. You've got so many skeletons in the closet, you make a zombie movie look like nothing. I'd be very careful with that, Mark Cuban. But when he came out and was giving all these lectures about what is a terrorist incident or what people who protest are all about and how our country was founded on the backs of protesters, well, they weren't protesting like these people here. Fake oppression. Our founding fathers protested against a tyrannical government, and they went to war and defeated a mighty tyrannical military. That's how they protested. Yeah, there was the Boston Tea Party, but even then, these are people that had a real reason. Taxation without representation. I think that's what it was. No, it wasn't taxation or representation. Wasn't it taxation it was unfair taxation between the British and America. I think that's what it was. I got to look at my history. Either way, it's about taxes. And it's a problem. So when we look at these protesters today, what we're looking at is people that live under fake oppression. They even if they were to sit back and, like I was talking about doing a threat assessment before, analyze their life and write it down on a piece of paper, reality, not what's cooked up in their brain, you would see that compared to other countries, there is no oppression here. Poverty is an oppression. Yeah, taxation without representation, that's what it was. Poverty is oppressive. Stupidity can be oppressive. You can work your way out of both of those. I can't sit here and say that people of color are oppressed. Why? Not because I'm racist. Because I served with people who have dark skin. It's nothing they ever talked about. They succeeded. I know SEALs that have dark skin, fighter pilots who have dark skin, doctors, attorneys. There's a president just recently that has dark skin. There's Olympians, pro football players. Young kids don't have to wait for somebody to make something great of themselves so that they can turn around and then do it too. If that is your idea of becoming a success, is waiting for somebody else to make it so that you can say then it's possible, you, my friend, what's the word I'm looking for here? A waste of a body. That's what you are. Kryptonite says, no oppression here, bro. I like that. I don't even recognize, George Carlin said he doesn't judge a man by the color of his skin. He looks at the size of their nostrils. That makes about as much sense as me saying I judge somebody by the color of his skin. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And that's why I can't stand, maybe you guys can explain it to me. I don't get it when I turn on CNN or MSNBC and I constantly hear people pointing out their color, their gender, their sexuality, and consistently making this stuff an issue. I know I've got off the mark with Mark Cuban here, but they're consistently making this into an issue instead of continuing to say what Martin Luther King was saying. Don't look at me for the color of my skin. Judge me for the content of my character. What happened to that? That was what got us out of oppression, was that not just people who have dark skin or women or homosexuals or gay people, whatever you want to call it. It sounds weird with somebody with a southern accent saying homosexuals, but we started getting away from the labels. We started getting away from the racist tendencies or just the judgment of looking at people with color and all this stuff. And they didn't want it. They didn't want to be labeled. I'm just going to keep blocking people who are saying stupid stuff tonight. So I don't get how I got on the subject, but I also don't get how we have gone back to this whole thing. So getting back to Mark Cuban, though, this is a guy who came out and is acting like he knows what our founding fathers were thinking. He doesn't.
Hey, Dave Robinson's back in the house. Woohoo!
So these people are joining again. Did you guys get kicked off? Is that why everybody's starting to join again? It's kind of weird. But Mark Cuban doesn't know the founding fathers. He wasn't there. We know we have history that we can look at the founding fathers, but when he equates what these people are doing, such as bombing, putting a pipe bomb down at the Times Square recruitment depot in 2008. I worked a part of that case. According to Mark Cuban, that's not terrorism, that's protesting. And according to Mark Cuban, that's the way the founding fathers did it. That's not the truth. That's not the way it is. So, anyway, I'm happy to see Mark Cuban getting fined $600,000. I'm glad that the truth is coming out, that they have sexual misconduct and that the team is kind of out of control. The Mavericks, because it tells us the truth about this guy who is a know-it-all and sits on his show Shark Tank and walks around with this loud mouth. See, the big difference between him and Donald Trump is Donald Trump, as you can see with being the president and running his campaign like nobody's ever ran a campaign before, and going in with saying, this is the way we do it because this is the way we get things done. This is effective solutions. Mark Cuban is going to pick a party line because he's a chump. And that's what chumps do. There'll be more to come on this, I guarantee it. Anybody else got anything? Brian McLeese says he loves the book. If you've read this book, make sure you go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble, wherever you bought it, and give it a review. I want an honest review. I don't understand why people give me 4 stars, though. I understand if people hate me or they don't like the book, and they're chumps or whatever. I understand when somebody just didn't get it. They don't get it. And a lot of people saying, man, you just kept repeating yourself and you talked about your career, and I did that stuff for a reason in the book. But I don't understand 4 stars. That's just me. Yeah, so Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness, everything I've been talking about tonight, you can learn how to do it in there. You can learn how to do threat assessments. You can learn how to do all this stuff. You can learn how to protect yourself, not have to wait on law enforcement, not have to wait on political sheriffs like they got down there in Florida. Scott Israel, political hack, this guy. You don't have to wait on congressmen and senators, people like Debbie Wasserman Schultz or Paul Ryan or Nancy Pelosi or John McCain. You don't have to wait on them. By the way, I am not interested in why am I forgetting his name now? He's going to run for Senate in Utah. Ran for president. Help me out, brain room. Just had a brain lapse. Why am I forgetting his name? Mormon. Ran for president against Obama. Help me out, brain room. Why did it go blank? Romney. Mitt Romney. Thank you. Kryptonite. Mitt Romney, I'm not interested in him running for anything. He's just going to be another John McCain, that guy. So, man, that was a lot of effort just to get that out. So, I wanted to say this one thing before I go, for everybody that watches this show on a normal basis. When I came on yesterday and I criticized everybody for the way they treated Nina, not everybody, but when I did that, and I singled some people out, I'll tell you, honestly, maybe that was the wrong thing to do, singling you all out. But I got to be honest. Almost all of you wrote me privately, said you were sorry. And I think that's amazing. And although I'm probably not the one that needed to be apologized to, I did take it as, look, I don't look at myself as this guy, Jonathan Gillum, that does this show, and you guys are the I'm controlling the CQR. I don't look at it that way. We're all part of one team. You go do your jobs on a daily basis, and you live your lives, and you tune in here once I start the show, and this is the siphon for the dialogue. This is where the dialogue starts. This is where the dialogue gets going. I know people who have met on this show who become friends and who have they have the same ideas on what's best for this country. It's been phenomenal. The fact that you all wrote me and showed me that, if anything, that you get the show and you understand it, it just means a tremendous amount. And as I said yesterday, this isn't a normal show. This isn't just about getting numbers and getting sponsors. It's not just about me coming on here and telling the news, because there's a lot of stuff in the news that I'm not covering. But quite frankly, it's filler, I think. I try to cover the things that are the most dangerous to this country. And it means a lot to have this experiment that we're doing. We were doing this long before a lot of other people were doing it. Last night we got almost 10,000 views. That's just on Facebook, 2,000 on Twitter, probably like 20 on YouTube. But I don't know if you realize this. That's more than most radio shows. That's more than some of the networks and their shows. I didn't know this before until I got the numbers. And that's largely in part because of you all. When I went over 1 million people reach, not views, but reach on Facebook, Facebook shut that down. Now we're only getting between 10 and 40,000 people that we reach. But yet our numbers of views continue to climb. That's telling me that you all are telling other people about this show. So yesterday when I came down on you guys hard, here's what I want you to realize. And I know he's watching right now because he wrote me. He said, don't forget, a great leader criticizes in private and he praises in public. And that's absolutely true. And maybe that's the way I should have handled it. But why did I not handle it like that yesterday? Well, first of all, because you all aren't children. You're adults. And secondly, because we need to have our asses spanked. We really do. I had to learn the hard way to keep my mouth shut. There were several times when in the Bureau and in the SEAL teams, I created a terrible environment for myself because I told people the truth about who they were, that they were an effing a-hole. Just so happens, or in the case of another person, I was asked by my special agent in charge, are you telling me that she's a liar? You're going to sit right here, right in front of me and tell her she's a liar. And I said, yes, ma'am, I am. And that just happened to be my assistant special agent in charge. I guess you could probably figure out how that worked out. Not real well. But I had to figure out along the way, you control your anger, you fight your battles in God's time, and when it comes time for you, when you feel like you need to say something, sometimes maybe that's just time for you to move on. I learned that. I learned a lot of lessons. But one thing I wanted to share with you all tonight was one of the reasons why I came down on you hard yesterday is because I expect more from you. I see what you guys write. I see the analysis that you guys have. I've gone to war with you on Twitter against trolls and against leftists. I know there's people that liberal that are watching this show, and I appreciate you and your comments, and I really wish we would just get away from liberal and conservative and just start looking at ourselves as effective thinkers. So sometimes you need an ass whipping, and sometimes it needs to happen in public. And if it embarrassed you, I'm sorry that you had to be the example, but let me tell you something. It's not going to kill you. You're going to be on this show more. You're not going to go away. Maybe one or two of you will, and that's their problem. But some of the people I saw tuned in here again tonight. And sometimes we just have to get an ass whipping in order to get our minds right, in order to understand that that little seed is where we need to go. We need to take that seed and plant it right there because we have some dialogue. That's the way it works. Anyway, let's go to the truth zone. I got to get my dog. I have a feeling he's rolling around the floor out there. Hold on one second. I think people want to see Rico. Let me grab him real quick. Hold on. Don't tune out yet. Stay right there. All right, here he is. Everybody's wanting to see him. He's a part of the team as well. He hadn't been feeling really good. When it rains and it gets warm, it got real warm today, it's hard on him. Right? All right, sit up tall. There you go. Oh, he's coughing. He's got a cough. You got it, old man? Sound just like an old man. Well, you are almost 18. All right, get out of here. Slowly. Just sit there. All right, now we can go to the True Zone, I guess. Somebody said he winked. Hey, look here. All right. True Zone time. All right. Well, yeah, he coughed like me. That's right. He's got an enlarged heart. You know, when I went to the show today with Bill Stanton, his show, and he had his dog there, Rich Gaspari. I still can't believe I got to be on a show with Rich Gaspari. By the way, that show comes on 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on True TV on Friday is when that will air. Pretty interesting. I think I'm going to be on Sean Hannity's radio show tomorrow, maybe. I'm usually on Thursdays. We'll see. But it was pretty interesting. They had their dogs there. I said, well, I could have brought Rico, but I'm not too sure he wouldn't have crapped all over the place. So, plus he wouldn't, you know, he would have started whining. Something would have happened. Once they get that old, it's better to leave them at home if you can. But it's interesting being around dog owners when they're with their dogs. You know, what they're concerned with is that dog okay? Is the dog in any trouble? Is the dog too hot? Does it need water? They want to feel the love from that dog. If you know real dog owners, they want to know that their dogs love them. And I'm sitting here watching this and I'm thinking to myself, you know, that's the way we need to be with this country. We need to have a love affair with the Constitution. We need to be in love with our freedom. And just like, you know, like they were talking about, and I say I'm the same way. If anybody tried to hurt my dog, listen. Some people on Twitter last week thought it'd be funny to say they're going to come abduct my dog. That'll be the last night of their life on this earth. Can you imagine that? I'd probably have to spend my life in jail after that, but so be it. But that's the passion that we should have for the Constitution. Don't change my Constitution. I love it. It's what allowed me to be born into a free country. It's what allowed, let me think of what your name was there a second ago that was over here on Twitter saying that, you know, kryptonite, you know, he's not bothered. He's not afraid. He looks like he has dark skin. It's what gave him the freedom to feel that way. It's what gave Martin Luther King Jr. the ability to rise to the level that he did and be such an influence like he was. I love that Constitution, and I don't want it messed with. I love my freedom. And, you know, freedom's a tough one, folks. There's many days when I don't want to get up. I've had a hard night. I didn't get any sleep. And I got to do things the next day. Maybe I was writing all night and then somebody calls, and inevitably I stay up all night and the next day somebody wants me to do something for them. And it's hard. And freedom gives you the ability to say no. And it gives you the freedom to say, I want to stay in bed and quit. That's the hard part about freedom. But freedom also gives you the opportunity to be the best that you can be, to rise to the occasion, to be something special. You have no idea how incredible you were created. I've looked into my soul. I pulled it back in SEAL training. I've looked in there and it was scary. But you know what I discovered? I'm not even close to fulfilling my potential. And neither are you, and neither are we. Don't let them mess with the Constitution. Stand up and do it now because those loudmouths are doing it. I'm Jonathan Gillum. That's my buddy Rico down there. This is The Experts. I'll see you tomorrow. The truth has arrived. Now, normally at this time you'd see the commercial for my book, but I wanted to take a second. I probably should have done this a little bit earlier, but I want to take a second and I want to have a moment of silence for Becky Parker, her mom, who everybody knows Becky. Becky is like my alarm clock for when I should be starting a show, which is rarely at 8 o'clock. And so Becky said that she wasn't able to tune into the show because her mom passed away Monday night, I believe. And, you know, Becky, my mom, who's watching the show right here, Joy Hawk, you'll see her on there. She's still, you know, my mom's still alive and kicking. She's my hero. But I lost my father when I was 13. Of course, I lost my beloved dog, Jessie. I'm not equating my dog to your mom, but I was with my father when he died, and I had to tell the doctor to inject Jessie with medicine to put her down because she was sick. And death, well, death is something that we will all face. It's a great mystery, and it's terrifying when you think about it, but there's hope in death, and it's important for us to all realize that every creature that has ever had the breath of life breathe into it will live forever. You may die, and you won't may die, you will die. You will die. I can guarantee you that. I'm not a betting man, but if Vegas opens up that bet, I'm going and putting a full ride on that one. You will die. Everybody watching this will die. Everybody that's ever been and everybody that ever will be will die. But you'll never be dead. And that's why it's important to make the right decisions. I happen to think, I don't know Becky's mom, but I know Becky enough from this show to know that she's one prompt individual. Hard to be a bad person or a disgusting individual if you're that prompt. So tonight, we salute Becky's mom and Becky and anybody else that has had to face grief because of death. But do remember this, how incredible it will be when that day comes. When we get to sit with our loved ones, my father, my grandparents, Jessie, I could name every single one of my animals, old Bo. It'll be an incredible day.